Welcome to another episode of Psycho's Platters, always powered by coffee each and every time. So, what's a mighty psycho going to do? Well, you know what? It's 2024. It's January 2024. And you're going to have to forgive me today, guys. I'm kind of under the weather. I've been like this for a few days. But I wanted to make a Beatles Vinyl Tag video. That's right. I think it was Rachel's Ghost. Rachel came up with this. I could be wrong on this. I'm guessing it's, because Rob Walker had the vinyl tag, which I may or may not do. I don't know. There's just too many questions, I think. Personally, I think they should shorten it to 10 questions, because 20 is just a bit much. Rach has got 10, which is a nice amount. So, we're going to go down the line, and I'm going to do the best I can. I think I have things except for 2 questions, and I'll explain that later. Question number 1, which album do you own the most copies of? Well, I know it's going to sound real goofy, and I might have brought it up before on the show, the White Album is what I've got the most copies of. Now, I was not going to go drag all my copies, sorry, okay? But currently I have got about 5 copies, numbered of course. This is US pressing. I would so love to find a UK mono white album. That would be ultimate for me. Hearing the 1980 comp rarities gave me a small little taster of how the differences are on a mono and a stereo mix, okay? Some of my copies happen to have everything to it. The posters, the pictures. In fact, I think only one has got everything complete. I have a second copy with a poster, and then the rest are just regular copies. Now, I do happen to have a Purple Capital also, but in this case, this is an Apple Records. Your number here is 1,654,199. Okay, so and then even one of the copies that I've got, which had no records in it, I found it at my next door neighbor's garage sale. But her copy, she bought it. Get this, the week it came out. She thought she would take, and if I ever find it, I'll show it to you guys someday. A drawing she drew over the whole entire front of the White Album, but I think that one was like copy 333,000 something, which that threw me for a loop. Alright, so White Album, I've got about 6 albums. I have the twin cassette, and I have 2 copies on CD. 2 show bootleg. I'd love to. The problem is it's pissing me off. I did take my collection down some, okay, but I know I didn't sell bootlegs because I wouldn't. I haven't come across that many bootlegs over the years. The only Beetle bootleg I happen to have was Have You Heard the Word? And that one, of course, was an orange cover with a August 22nd, 1969 alternate take shot. That much I can tell you, but it was an orange cover over that photo, so it's like in an orange haze. That album cover was kind of weird because back in that day in the 80s, which is when this came out, they were trying to peddle the song Have You Heard the Word being a Beatles outtake, but in reality it was Tin Tin, which had Steve Kipner and one of the Bee Gees. Yes, they could sound like the Beatles sometimes. I think they sounded a little more convincing than Claw 2, if you will. Question 3. What's the latest Beatles you picked up? How about this little puppy on MGM, 1964, that's right. Of course, all the side labels were capitalizing on all of this stuff. No pun intended, or maybe pun intended. So the thing is, we've got here, this is, of course, the Tony Sheridan tracks and their guests. Well, pretty much the guests are the band called the Titans, which I don't know if that was a legit group, a studio group that was for MGM Records. I'm not entirely sure. Somebody, I think, a long time ago mentioned like Lou Reed or one of that era's people possibly could have been a Titan. I just read that somewhere. I'm sorry, I don't know the source. That would be kind of funny though, don't you think? But this here, front, back, really nice on your typical mid-60s MGM label. Question 4, solo album from favorite Beatle. Well, you know, I get these weird moods, you know. I'd say maybe every couple months I change my allegiances, if you will. Currently, right now, though, it is George Harrison. It has been for the last couple months at least. This is his 1979 self-titled album on Dark Horse Records. This one I really do like because you got Love Comes to Everyone. Not Guilty finally gets a stab here, okay? Soft-Hearted Hannah, Blow Away, which is one of my favorite George Harrison ballad types. Faster is another one dedicated to auto racing. I think that's totally cool. So, George Harrison, the George Harrison self-titled from 1979. Question 5, non-US UK Beatle release. Well, how convenient that this just happens to also be one of the more recent finds. And I picked it up for a decent price. The Beatles in Italy. That's right. Here's your front. Here's your back. Now, the backstory to this, of course, is this was originally released in 1965 on mono on the Parlophone label. E dropped off for Italian presses. And so basically what they did was, at that time, they took what was exclusive to the Italy market. It was, if I remember correctly, deep cuts and EP cuts, maybe single cuts that didn't make it on any Italian release. So they pretty much cleaned it up. I like this for a back shot, I'll tell you, but it does make it look real, what's the word I'm thinking of? Deceptive, if you will. Let me show real quick here. You've got your, this is your gatefold, okay? Now, I wish I could tell you this was a 60s release, but it's not. By the early 1980s, they flipped from the mono release, which they were doing at least till the mid-1970s, to a stereo, and that's exactly what this is. This is a, well, to me it's a cream-colored EMI Italian, so you have the Beatles in Italy. And like I said, I got this for a good price. I've seen some record stores and antique malls charge 2 to 3 times for this. And by the way, same label variation, okay? It wasn't an original. I'm like, sheesh. All right, track 6. Show a Beatles single or EP. This is one of the more recent acquisitions that I picked up, but this, what I mean by recent, is a couple months ago. A very nice She Loves You single on Swan with the picture sleeve. Then, no, the 200 is not the cost. I did not pay that. This thing is beautifully minty, has the Don't Drop Out on it. It is stamped for your Matrix. I always liked that song. That was one of the first 45s I ever got for Beatles in the late 70s. Track 7. Show a album/single from a band covering the Beatles. Now, I'm going to give you a couple bonuses due to the lack of some material, all right? One of my favorites, though, Cheap Trick, 1980. The EP found all the parts. That's right. It was little bits of everything, okay? But what you got on here is Day Tripper. They do a version of Day Tripper. Here's the back on this. This was under the new disc line, which they thought was going to succeed in 1980-81, if you will. I only remember seeing one other new disc, and it was a Clash release, all right? But Day Tripper for Cheap Trick. Now, another one that I thought was cool. See, that one was an Illinois band. Here's another Illinois band from the first album, 1966, Buckinghams, Kind of a Drag. Yes, here's the front, here's the back. This, of course, the band is in front of Grant Park in the Buckingham Fountain there at Grant Park, downtown Chicago. Now, on side 2, track 1, it's I'll Call Your Name. Very nice, interesting cover for that. It also was released on a 45 off of this album, too. Of course, the big hit here being Kind of a Drag, but I'll Go Crazy was really, really good. Sweets for My Sweet. All kinds of good stuff on here from the original Buckingham's lineup. Now, track 8. Beetle guest starring on another person's record. So I decided to bring a couple to the table, if that's okay with you. How about Gary Brooker, Lead Me to the Water? George Harrison's on this thing. George and Gary knew each other for years, okay? Like I said, Gary was in Procol Harum. This year, of course, is on Mercury Records, if I remember correctly, 82, okay. And not only do you have him on this album, but you also happen to have Phil Collins and Eric Clapton is on here too, along with other guests too. So George is on this one. Also, thought I'd throw another one that's George related. I have only ever come across this one copy, literally in the last 10 years. 1976, Shelter Records. Never heard of Larry Hosford. Crosswords, that's right. Here's the front, here's the back. George is on 2 tracks of this album, and on one of those 2 tracks, you also have Leon Russell with them as an added bonus. They're pretty cool. You may want to seek this out. We'll talk more about that in a future episode in great length. And lastly, from 1987, Duane Eddy's The Trembler. That's right, Duane Eddy and the Rebels. Now, you've got 2 different Beatles on here. You've got Paul is on here and on some tracks, and George doing slide guitar on others. So you have 2 Beatles on here. Seek this out. It is a fun record. I think you would really like it. And to my knowledge, this is the last legitimate big release he ever had. Unfortunately, it didn't chart real well. And then I know I'm going overboard here, but this is another fun record, okay? Some people would say that this is the lost Paul McCartney and Wings record, so to speak. We're talking about the 1974 release on Warner Brothers, McGear, for Mike McGear, a.k.a. Mike McCartney. Yes, you know, I really thoroughly enjoy this album. It was recently, I think in the last year, reissued with extra tracks, and I want to find that too. Lastly, track 10, favorite Giles Martin remix. Now, I'm sorry, I'm not going to go and spend a bunch of money on a new Beatles album. I won't do it, not on vinyl. And I also have to apologize because my CDs, and I have bought several Giles Martin remix CDs. I would say truthfully probably the Sgt. Pepper. The Sgt. Pepper, to me anyway, was the best remix so far. I think Abbey Road was so-so. I think White Album could have been improved, although I really did appreciate the Esher demos finally coming out as a 3rd disc. So I hope that kind of answers all your questions, Rach and gang here out here in VC land. I hope you guys are really taking really good care of yourselves already. We're into mid-January 2024 almost. Like I said, hopefully everybody is doing good. I'm feeling could be a lot better. But go have some fun with this Beatles Vinyl Tag. Thanks, Rach, for doing this. I like these fun kind of videos where it makes you think. All right. Once again, I apologize about missing a couple items, but you don't want to see this place. This place is a little messy right now. So until next time, everybody, God bless, rock on. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, always powered by coffee each and every time, because this is the Mighty Psycho Promise. See you next time.